Hey there, everybody! Welcome to this next lesson where we are going to be adding more information to our villain designs. We're going to be seeing how to design through shapes. This is a base that's fundamental when designing any character. We can structure three basic shapes. We can use the triangle, the circle, and the square. From these, we are going to design all the characters we can imagine. It's a very easy way to base ourselves off and take references when we want to know what we are going to be drawing. In the villain's case, we are going to be using mainly, especially in this case, triangles, so that you can see how this is going to affect us. This character that I'm making now is going to be mainly made up of triangles. Maybe in the end, we make one with a circle so you can see that we are not just going to be using triangles to represent evil when we make our designs. We are going to find different characters that are based on triangles when we are thinking of animation figures. Like for example, in Transylvania Hotel, we can see that Dracula is exclusively made with triangles. However, these guys have been rounded enough so that we can move on from being a bad guy to a good guy that makes us all feel good for him. In this case, I'm making a kind of lawyer dude, or maybe a judge, something that could be evil, giving him a series of concrete features. In this case, for example, we are going to give him an inverted triangle for the body. The shoulders are going to be much wider than his waist, and he's going to be serious. And his face and nose and a little bit of his ears are going to be pointy. I'm going to exaggerate the legs even more. They're going to be much thinner than the rest of the body. They're going to be so thin that we can see the difference. But seeing as it's a character design, we have complete license over what and how we draw it. We want it to be coherent, but that doesn't mean it has to be completely proportionate. In the second case, we are going to use the triangle again. In this case, we're probably going to round off the ears again. However, I'm going to keep the face with the nose in a more angular shape. The second character is going to be based off a kind of scientist look. I'm going to give him some small eyes, a tired expression, and I'm going to mark his cheeks and his back under his eyes. He's going to be a skinny character. Unlike the one we did earlier, where you can see that he has a body structure that's stronger than this one, I'm going to keep a figure of a person that's really skinny. We are not even going to be using wide shoulders or anything at all. What's more, we are going to be basing our figure off an I letter. I'm going to be giving him this position now, maybe. I'm going to give him those crossed arms that I want the figure to have. As I said in previous lessons, if we want that the image fits with the rest, we just need to rescale it and put it next to the other characters. The next character I'm going to draw is a Femme Fatale. We are going to start with her. And I'm going to draw a sharp nose. But, guys, not all villains must be ugly or have wrinkles or be old. That's completely up to you. If you want to create an ugly witch, okay, if not, it's okay as well. In this case, however, as it's a femme fatale, we need to keep in mind that they take advantage of their external appearance to do evil things. In this case, I've drawn this woman holding a glass of wine, which makes her more elegant. Well, and this would be the result. I'm going to put it next to the other characters. See? To finish with, we'll be drawing a rounded shape. I'm going to create a man based off circles. It's a villain as well, but instead of using triangles, I'm going to use circles. For this character, I've chosen it to be a millionaire man. Don't know why actually. I think it's because when I think of rich people, I also think of corpulent people. It's strange because most of the reference we have, they use thin characters to represent these dudes. For example, think of The Simpsons. Mr. Burns, the bad and extremely rich dude, is way far away from being fat. He's really thin, skeletal, even weak. So I'm going to use a fat person to represent this kind of character to emphasize on the fact that doesn't starve at all. I've also added the patch since it seemed to say like, hey, I'm a really, really bad guy and I wear this patch because I've done some really bad stuff. Or perhaps someone attacked him. It just depends on your imagination and how creative you are. Perhaps you could make up a story before drawing the character to determine which features you are going to use in it. In fact, it would be easier. What's their job? Why are they bad? And so on. As you can see, it's almost done. The next step will be coloring it. But guys, before finishing this step, I'm going to address some points that I find interesting. I would also like to address the stages the villain goes through. I mean, all the wars he or she had to face and what happened to them, basically. So now I'm going to talk about the villain's functions. And the first function I want to talk about is how they are used to emphasize heroes' goodness. Villains, as are the bad guys, have also a good side. It is goodness is necessary for evil to exist, and the other way round. So, the worse the things done by villains are, the bigger will be the efforts of the heroes to let good win. And then we can also find the justifying function. It is what the villain does is justifying the hero's death, in case they die, obviously. Don't know if you've realized this, but we don't usually expect the villain to die. And if she or he does for any reason, it's because they are extremely bad and it's the only way to beat them. Another function we can talk about is creating different situations in which the hero has to prove her or his abilities to fight evil. Without these moments or scenes full of danger, fights, and fear, there wouldn't be battles and wars from which heroes emerge victorious. And then we can also find the function of focusing hatred and anger on the villain. Obviously, and as I said, it will depend on the historical and political situation we are inside the story. And then we are going to find the perpetrating function. This one is used to highlight the collective values of a society. For example, when we were children, we were told to behave correctly, to be good and kind with our friends, our parents, our classmates. So we were taught a series of values which works inside a particular society, the one we live in, and which will tell us how to distinguish between good and evil. Although we can have our own opinion, it's always going to be connected to the values taught throughout our lifetimes. Remember, for example, when grown-ups were always telling you not to hit or smack others, not to steal, and so on. So, let's go back to the function of creating different situations regarding politics or the historical moment. For example, remember, in stories based on the First World War, the Germans are the villain, right? And after this war, and with the spread of communism thoughts, it was communists who became the villains, especially Russian people. Then it was Arabs, and after that, South Americans, as we have seen recently in series like Narcos. So, the origin of villains also depends on the political situation around the world, and this classifies people and creates stereotypes. So, guys, this will be the last lesson before our final project. I really hope that you found it useful and interesting. See you in the following lesson.